Hey everybody, welcome into this Adobe Illustrator tutorial brought to you as always by tutvid.com. My name is Nathaniel Donson, and today we're going to take a look at this really cool zero graphic, I guess we can call it. It's like this two-toned, or really you could argue four-toned effect by this artist. I believe the name is Shreyas Bendress or something like that. Bendre, maybe. I'm going to get their information together, Instagram, Dribble, whatever I can find. There'll be a link or multiple links so you can check out their work down in the bio. Really super cool stuff that they've got. And this one just jumped out at me. I saw it actually a while ago, maybe a year ago, if I'm thinking correctly. But I saw it a little while ago, and finally I'm getting around to making a video on how it is done, or at least how I would have done it here in Adobe Illustrator. So without further ado, let's jump into this thing and get started. Okay, well, here we are in Adobe Illustrator, and the first thing we want to do is go File, New. Now, guys, before I even get too deep into this, if I'm going too quick for you, there's some speed controls there on the YouTube player you can use to slow the video down. I don't want to go too super slow because it'll just drag this video out and it'll be a massive file and a massive video. So forgive me if I go a little bit too fast, but I'm really going to try to get through this in a reasonable amount of time. All right, here we are. New document. We're going to go 2560 by 1440 for the width and height, and I'm going to choose RGB for the color mode because RGB has some sweet color, but man, I do love CMYK. But we're going to roll with RGB for this one because this is kind of a screen graphic. All right, first thing we're going to do, grab the rectangle tool, click a single time. We're going to make a rectangle 2560 by 1440, and what I'm going to do is use my align panel here. I'm going to choose to align to the artboard, and I'm going to align horizontal and vertical centers. I'm going to select the stroke, and I'm going to hit this little slash icon to get rid of the stroke, so I just have a fill. And then up here, I've got my RGB color panel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to, I'm going to say look like 10 cyan, 10 red, 10 green, and something like 40 blue. So it's going to be a very, very dark blue for our background. This is our background layer. I'm going to name it BG. I'm going to lock that layer up, and I'm going to make my thumbnails a little bit bigger by hitting this little flyout menu, choosing panel options, and going other, and saying like, give me 100 pixels, something like that. All right, there's going to be a lot of snapping and clicking and aligning, so I highly recommend for this tutorial at least that you go view and turn smart guides on. It's going to really, really help you out for what we're going to be doing here. I'm going to shut off my background layer here just so we're working over the white. We'll turn the background on in a little bit. I'm going to create a new layer here. This is where our artwork is going to live. And I am going to create a series of circles. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to click a single time. And I'm going to begin with a 300 by 300 pixel circle. And I'm going to flip fill and stroke. I'm just going to make my stroke a black. So I'm going to go with like solid black. There we go. That's great. Then I can click and drag this circle up here. I'm going to click and create another ellipse, this one 200 by 200 pixels. And then I'm going to create a third ellipse here. This one's going to be 100 by 100 pixels. Now I can select all three of these circles. I could align them to the artboard. I think I'm just going to align them to the selection though. That's so they all just line up within themselves just like that. You can see we have this like bullseye looking thing. It would have done that if we'd aligned to the artboard, but it would have just aligned them to the very center. All right, I'm going to drag this up a little bit. What I want to do now is duplicate this group of circles. So I'm going to grab it. I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option key, and I'm going to click to drag. I'm holding down Shift as well. And when you have Smart Guides turned on, it will snap to right exactly where the path points intersect right down there. So you're going to get this perfect stack that's like this stacked up 8 looking shape. Now what we want to do is grab the largest of both circles, one at a time, so just like this, hold down Alt or Option, and click and drag just like this until the far left edge of the big circle aligns and snaps to the far right edge of the smallest middle circle. And then down here, we're going to do kind of the opposite with the circle, so hold down Alt and Shift and drag the circle back this way until the far right edge of the big circle aligns with the far left of the small circle in the middle. So you should have a shape that looks like this at this point. Again, this is where these smart guides are so super helpful. You see how fast it was to just create that little cluster of shapes? All right, let's open up this layer 2 here. We've got all these ellipses in here. I'm going to hide these 2 newest shapes. So this ellipse, I'm going to hide that. And then this ellipse over here, you can see it's just being selected in the layers panel. I'm going to hide that so I make sure that I am getting what I need to get here. All right, now we're going to begin joining our circles together to create ovals. We're going to do this using the pen tool. This also, by the way, is where Smart Guides is really going to help us. So I can come down here. You can see there's the anchor point. I can click on that, hold down Shift, and move right down to where the other anchor point is. See, when the word says anchor, it means I'm right over the anchor point. Move directly across right there on the anchor point, and I'm just clicking on these anchor points to just create one big square. Now I'm going to select the square, hold down Shift, select the top circle, the biggest of the top circles, and the biggest of the bottom circle. Then I'm going to use my Pathfinder panel, and I'm just going to go ahead and unite these shapes together. You can see it's going to give me this just kind of giant pill shape. And I'll speed the video up here as I go ahead and do the same exact thing for these inner shapes as well. Just holding down Shift and aligning those anchor points. It's really pretty simple. Just make sure that you're selecting all three shapes after you create them, and just use that align functionality in the Pathfinder panel. And that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and build our color scheme for this real quick. We're going to use our swatches panel, and I'm just going to choose the new swatch icon right here, and we're going to build out our swatches from scratch. I want to make them global colors so we can go back later and change them. All right, the first color I want in the RGB is 255 in the red channel, 30 in the green channel, and 35 in the blue channel. There we go. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to create new again. This again is a global color. And for this one, we're going to go 255 in red. We're going to go 30 in green, but this time we're going to go 135 in the red channel. So we got a nice like red and pink color. I'm going to go ahead and create another new color. In this case, I'm going to go 110 in the red channel. I'm going to go 250 in the green channel, and I'm going to go 170 in the blue channel. I'm going to hit OK. And then for our fourth color here, we're going to go 0 in the red channel. We're going to go 60 in the green channel, and we're going to go 245 in the blue channel. So very bright blue, and I'll hit OK there as well. So we got these four very vibrant shapes. They're global colors. I'm sorry, not shapes. They are colors. Four very vibrant colors, and we know that they're global colors because it's got the little white corner on the color swatch in our swatches panel. And global colors, they allow us, if we have this red applied to 100 pieces of artwork and we double click on the swatch and change it to orange, all of that artwork that is filled with that global color will be changed in a heartbeat. I've got a video I did on global color. If you don't know much about it, global color is super duper powerful and really, really cool here in Illustrator. But that's not really for this tutorial. Let's go ahead and create a gradient here. So let's grab the gradient tool. I'm just going to click on the black to white gradient like that. And let's create a gradient with the first of our two colors. So I'm going to drag the red out and drop it on the white color stop. And I'm going to drag the pink out and drop it on the darker color stop over here. So we get this really red to pink, super vibrant looking gradient. And let's drag this gradient over and drop it in our swatches panel just because we have it there. All right, let's select our bottommost shape here. And we're going to get rid of the stroke. I'm going to select the fill, and we're going to apply that gradient that we just created. It's going to go side to side just like that. That looks good. Let's select the inner shape here, not the innermost, but the sort of the second shape. Once again, we'll select the stroke. Whoop, I don't want to double click the stroke. I want to select the stroke, hit the slash icon to get rid of it, select the fill, and we're going to apply the same gradient to this. But what we're going to do is we're going to flip the gradient. There are a few ways I can do this. I'm going to use this little swap color reverse gradient button in the gradient panel. And you can see we've got this effect happening now. All right, let's select the outermost oval here and duplicate it. Command or Control C. We can just go edit copy if that's easier for you, and then go edit paste in front. And you can see we've got a second copy of this oval shape. We're going to get rid of our fill here, and we're going to go apply a stroke. I want this to be a white stroke, so I'm just going to choose the color white for my swatches panel because I had the stroke selected. It's going to apply that as a stroke. Then I'm going to open up my properties panel here, and I've got my stroke options here. I am going to click on the word stroke, and I'm going to align the stroke to the inside of the path, align stroke to inside, and I'm going to make the weight like, let's go 3 points. I think that'll work for us here. Then down here in the transparency panel, you can see I just have this one single path selected, this white stroke. I'm going to set this to a blend mode of soft light, and maybe I'll even reduce the opacity to like 65%. So you can see it's just giving us this very subtle edge to our shape. I think I'm going to do the same thing here with the inner stroke. So I'm going to go edit copy, and I'm going to choose edit paste in front. That basically pastes it right in place. I'm going to dump the gradient fill. I'm going to select the stroke over here at the bottom of my toolbar. I'm going to hit the color white for swatches. I'm going to go back to my stroke options in the properties panel, align that stroke to the inside, and boost it to about 3 points. Well, actually, because this oval is a little smaller, maybe I'll only boost it to 2 point. Once again, we'll go to the transparency panel for this layer, go soft to light for this, and also reduce the opacity to 65%. So you can see it's starting to give us this nice shape. We still haven't punched the hole in the middle, but we'll get to that. In fact, let's do that right now. I'm going to select that shape. We're going to swap the fill and the stroke. So you can see it's this black shape. We're actually going to need 2 copies of this because, well, we're just going to need 2 copies. You'll see why here. So I'm going to copy this, Command or Control C, and I'm going to just select the first shape and hold down Shift and select the gradient filled shape beneath it. And you can see what it's selected here in our layers panel, the black pill on top, and then the first of those solid color gradient pill shapes in the middle. Then we're going to go to our Pathfinder panel and we're going to hit the minus front option and just punch a hole right into our gradient shape. It doesn't look like much has happened, but you can see here that we now have this compound path, which is this racetrack looking oval. Now I do want to take this and drag it back down beneath this path, because this path right here is sort of the inner oval stroke, and you can see that now it is back in place where it should be. Why is this color fill in the middle? Well, it's because there's still this underlying pink gradient shape underneath. So what I'm going to do, remember we copied that black middle shape to our clipboard. We can go edit and just choose paste in front. It's going to paste the black shape right back in place. With that selected, I can, with this selected, go down, hold down shift, and select the big underlying bottommost pill shape. Let me just collapse properties for a second so we can get a good picture of what's going on. We got this smaller oval pill shape up here, and then the larger gradient pill shape selected. And in Pathfinder, we're going to choose a minus front, punch that hole. Uh-oh, it makes it look like everything went away. Don't worry, it just moved this layer all the way up to the top. Let's move it back down beneath everything, including, very important, this path, because this path layer is that outer edge stroke that we created and added to this. You can see now we're getting a really, really cool shape here. Let's select all 4 of these shapes here, and we're going to group them together by going Object, Group. And I'm going to duplicate this group. So we're going to go Edit, Copy, and then we'll choose Edit, Paste in Front. Let's double click on this group. We're going to enter into like isolation editing mode. See how we're within this group now editing. So we can select any of the elements of the group. That's all well and good. We need to create another gradient though real quick. So just click over here on this gradient option, and we're going to create a new gradient with our other colors. So with our really bright teal and really bright blue. So let's drag the teal color swatch out and drop it on the pink, and drag the blue color swatch out and drop it on the red. And then we're going to drag this gradient swatch to our swatches panel. And then I'm going to open up my group just so I can get a good idea of the shapes I'm selecting. I'm going to select the bottom shape here, and we're going to click on that gradient. Now you can see it doesn't look like anything happened because we had the stroke selected. So we're just adding a gradient stroke to this. That's not going to work. I'm going to hit Command or Control Z to undo that. Let's make sure we select and have the fill sort of in focus, if you will, and then select that teal to blue gradient. That's great. And our little white stroke edge, that's still going to hang out and be there. That's great. Let's select the inner gradient here, and we'll apply that same teal to blue gradient, and we'll do that same little trick where we just reverse the gradient here in the gradient panel, just like that. And now you can see we have this shape. Now what I can do is just click out here to layer 2 to get back out of that group. And we now have a sort of blue-teal version of this shape and this red-pink version of this shape. Now it's time to mask them together and really make this thing look pretty cool. So you ready for things to get a little bit complicated here? Hang with me. Let's turn on those ellipses that we shut off before. Remember these side ellipses that we had? I'm going to select both these layers in my layers panel, and I'm going to drag these layers above everything just so we can get a real good look at them. I'm going to drag a selection over both of these. Just hold down Shift and drag a selection over both. And I'm going to swap the fill and the stroke just so they're solid black. Make it easy for me to see what's going on here. And this is a really important step here. We want to go Edit, Copy. So essentially we're copying these to our clipboard, and we're just stashing a copy of them because we're about to kind of dirty things up a little bit. What I want to do is use these shapes to create a mask that will reveal only the top portion of our teal blue shape. Let me show you exactly what I mean here. I'm going to use my pen tool, and I'm going to align my path with the anchor point on the far left side of this black circle, just like that. And then I can bring this down, I can bring this over, and I want to align with the anchor point on the far right side of this little shape here. Then I can bring this shape over, and I can continue drawing the shape up, up, and around, just like that. Now what I want to do is take this black shape that we just drew. Basically, I just want the whole thing to cover the top portion of our little racetrack looking shape. I'm going to select that, hold down Shift, and select this giant ellipse here. I'm going to use Pathfinder, and I'm going to join these shapes together. So I can go Unite. I can actually just go Merge like this as well, and we've now made them one big shape. But I want to use this ellipse here and punch a rounded edge into the ellipse, or I'm sorry, into this more complex, crazy looking shape right there. The problem is this ellipse is actually beneath this shape, and this Pathfinder here is called minus front. So we need the front shape to do the minusing out. So I need to drag this ellipse above that path. And now I can select both these shapes and choose minus front, and it's going to just punch a perfectly curved edge into our shape just like that. Now we're going to select this shape. We're actually going to fill it with white because we're going to be using this in a mask. And I'm going to go Edit. Now I actually want to fill this shape with white, so I'm going to select that, and I'm just going to hit the color white up here in the color panel, and I'm going to in the Layers panel, hold down Shift and select that little circle next to the sort of teal blue oval. So both those shapes are selected now. And then I'm going to go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And you can now see we have this cool looking shape where we have this really neat masked object. They both fade together and work together really well. Ignore the failed preview over here in my Layers panel. If I just shut off a layer and turn it back on, it should correct itself eventually. And eventually this layer group will show up as the red-pink group. But just believe what you see out here on the artboard for now. Now, you remember the two ellipses that we copied to the clipboard? Well, let's paste them back in place real quick. We'll go paste in front. And it might have been a good idea just to duplicate them and stash them here in the Layers panel. That's always the safe way to go, just in case you need to copy and paste something else, just for future reference, something to think about. But what we want to do is create a little shadow, basically a little shadow that's here on the teal blue shape, and then a shadow over here that's on the red-pink shape side of things, but that fades exactly along that sort of little curve that we have going on there. So there are a few different ways we can do this. I think what I'm going to do is create a simple shape and just use a black to transparent gradient. Let's see how that looks. So what I'll do to begin is just grab my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a shape that just goes from the anchor point down here at the bottom, or just, kind of meets up exactly with the path and runs all the way up to, maybe I'll go with that anchor point there. It just should be exactly as wide as each side of your little racetrack looking shape here. I'm not sure what to call it. It's kind of like a double oval, right? So we'll go just like that. So we got these two shapes just like this. And again, very easy to make these shapes, courtesy of our beautiful little smart guides helping us out. And now what we can do is we can think about this and say, look, do we want to take a curved piece like this and save this part of it, in which case we would cast a drop shadow? Or like I just mentioned, do I want to save the bottom portion of it and use a linear gradient? I actually think it would be better to do the drop shadow now that I'm thinking about it, because a drop shadow would automatically follow the curve, whereas a gradient is just going to come straight out. So it would be much stronger over here than it would be over here. I think a drop shadow is really the way to go. So let's go with the shape here. And what we'll do is we'll find out where's the circle that's over here. So this circle, I'm going to drag the circle up. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to select both these shapes. And in order to get the piece that we want, we're really going to do nothing more than come over here to Pathfinder and choose Divide. So we're going to go Divide. It's going to make a group. We'll go Object, Ungroup. And we'll just begin deleting the pieces we don't want. We don't want this big piece out here, and we don't want this piece here. We just want this nice little shape here, and we want it to cast a drop shadow onto this reddish area underneath. So let's take this path here. We'll drag it beneath, because this ellipse in this side of the path, we'll work on that for the drop shadow on the other side in just a moment. Let's focus on this drop shadow here. What I'm going to do is we're going to go Effect, Stylize Drop Shadow here for this shape. And I'm going to tick on Preview, and pretty much these are the settings I want. Multiply, opacity of 100, X offset negative 15 pixels, Y offset of 0, and a blur of 15 pixels. I'm going to hit OK. Now, the problems are pretty obvious. We got this whole chunk of stuff that should not be there that is there, and the blur is sticking out the top and the left side. So how do we combat that? Well, first and foremost, we can drag the shape down beneath our clipping group. That gets rid of a lot of the stuff. And then if we just mask it to our racetrack shape, I think that'll solve the rest of it. So let's just grab the whole red group, the red-pink group, and copy it, Command or Control C. And then I'm going to click on the selection circle there to specifically select that path. I'm going to go to the transparency panel. We're going to double click on this little thumbnail here to add a solid black mask. And I'm going to go I'm going to go Edit, Paste in Front. I'm going to select all the question marky nonsense over here. The stroke I'm going to select first and just get rid of the stroke. And then I'm going to go to the fill here, and I'm going to fill this with white. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is there still shadow in the middle? Well, if we take a look here at the small preview we have of our mask, we can see that the very middle shape is being filled in as well. So what we might want to do is grab our direct selection tool and just try to click into the middle and figure out what's going on there. If that fails, we can open up the layer, opacity mask, and we can just begin clicking these different shapes, and we can figure out which one is contributing to the color in the middle. So if I turn off this top path, well, that looks like that's doing something. And then the second from the bottom shape, that's also doing something. Now I can see, based on my little preview, that our center area is full, solid, absolute black. Nothing can be seen there That's great. We just have our shapes that are filled with white. That looks good. In fact, I can select both those paths, and I can probably just throw them in the trash just so they're not messing around with us anymore. And then we can go ahead and select our artwork right here to get out of our mask editing mode. And we have our first shadow. Now, I'll probably take that shadow right here. I'll take that shadow, and I'll probably just reduce the opacity of it to like 50% just to make it a little bit more tolerable. And there we go. We have our first little shadow. It's a really complex shadow because we had to do a lot of masking to make it work. And you can see it's kind of a complex shape over there. But if you thought that one was complex, I think the one for this side is going to be a little bit more tricky. But let's go ahead and tackle it here. So basically, we want to create a shape just like we did before. So I'm going to select both of these shapes just like that. We're going to do the same little trick, divide, and then we'll go Object, Ungroup. And I'm going to begin selecting the pieces I don't want like that, and I don't want that either. So we want this, and we want to cast the shadow now onto the teal blue. So the shadow is going to be another drop shadow, but it's actually going to be moving upward. So let's go ahead and go Effect. We're going to choose Stylize Drop Shadow. I'm going to turn on Preview. And in this case, for X offset, I'm going to set it to 0. I'm going to set the Y offset. Let's try 20 pixels. You can see that pushes it down. I actually want to push it up, so let's go like a -20. And this one we're going to give like a 25 pixel blur. We're going to make this a little bit more blurry. And I think, well, we're not going to reduce the opacity here. We'll reduce the opacity just the same way we did the other one. I'm going to hit OK. Now in this case, we can't just drag it beneath the red, because if we drag it beneath the red, all of it's going to go away. So we need to make a slightly more complex mask. And actually, we had the mask just a minute ago. I'm going to undo. I'm going to back up a couple steps. This piece right here, this is the mask that we need. So let's just hide that real quick. We're going to come back and use that in a second. That was right from the divide when we divided everything up instead of deleting all the shapes. Only delete the remainder of the circle. Let's go back to this path here. We're going to go Effect. I can just choose this drop shadow here. It's going to just open the drop shadow dialog box for me. I'll hit Preview. It's going to give me that same drop shadow that I had a moment ago. I'm going to hit OK. That's great. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this shape. I'm going to fill it with white, actually. And I'm going to go Edit, Cut. Then I'm going to select my shape here, and let's create the mask. So with this selected, we're going to go to the Transparency panel. We'll double-click our little mask thumbnail icon, whatever you want to call it, and we'll go Edit, Paste in Front, and you can see the only bit of shadow we have left is the bit that runs out as if it were running out from underneath the red and the pink. I'm going to select that layer, and we'll just reduce the opacity to like 65%, something like that. And I will click away from it. And I think at this point, the one thing left to do that I want to try to do is duplicate this background group, drag it down to the new layer icon. I'll select the bottommost of these groups. I'm going to select the two just like edge paths. I'm going to drag them to the garbage because I don't want them. I'm going to select this group. In fact, I'll double click it and just name it Shadow, something like that. And I'm just going to colorize this whole thing just like black or something. It doesn't need to have any kind of crazy color. And for this, we'll go Effect. We're going to add a drop shadow here. This one is going to be an opacity of 40%. We'll go Y offset of 20 straight up. And let's try a blur of 25. Let's hit Preview and see what that looks like. 25 might be a little much. Let's go like 15. Maybe we'll go 25 for the Y offset, something like that. I think that'll work. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to back out just a little bit. So there is our shape. I'm going to turn my background color layer back on. You can see we've got a nice color shape like that. If we want to add a little something to the background, let me just collapse my top color shape here, lock that up. We're going to explore global color in just 1 second. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to grab my ellipse tool like this, and we can hold down Shift and drag out a giant ellipse, something like that. We can go to our gradient, go with like, I don't know, black to white gradient, whatever. And I'm going to click to add another white point. I'm going to drag to get rid of the black point. And then maybe what we'll do here is I'm going to go with like a super light blue to light blue gradient, something like this, right? This might not make any sense, but hang with me. It will in a second. We're going to select the rightmost color stop and set the opacity to 0%. And I'm going to change this to a radial gradient. So you can see it's just this kind of nice glowing shape. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to make this giant. So something sort of like that. Now, of course, this should be masked to the background. So I'm going to open up that background layer. I'm going to select the background rectangle, go Edit, Copy, and I'll select the big glowing orb of a background that we have. Maybe I'll offset this a little bit to the side. That'll maybe add a little visual interest, right? What do you think? Something like that. Maybe I'll just pull this downward a little bit. Something sort of like that. Maybe we'll make the color fade to transparency a lot more tightly. Something sort of like that. And here, I'll go to the Transparency panel. I'll double-click to add the mask. I'm going to go Edit, Paste in Front. We're pasting that really dark blue in. But if I just fill it with white, we're going to see that we're just going to get this nice glow added to the background. Let's select the artwork again here in the Transparency panel. And we can try setting this to something like, I don't know, screen. That really doesn't do much for me. Color dodge, it's a little bit too intense for me. What about just a simple overlay? right? Can we even see a difference there? It's a very, very subtle difference, maybe not quite enough to make a lot of sense. Maybe we'll just go take it back to normal and set the opacity to like 25 or maybe more than that, maybe like 40. Something like that. And now I'm going to zoom back in here on the artwork. At this point, if we're looking at it and we decide, you know what, I want to begin changing some of these colors. Well, we can just open up, let's say the red. We can say, you know what, this red should be a bit darker. We can go ahead and darken the red. I can tick on preview, and you can see we've made that red a bit darker, or I can make the red quite a bit brighter, something like that. Or I can make the red more like orange, something like that, and I could hit OK. Then I can come over here to the teals and the pinks. I could double-click on the teal, and I could say, you know what, I actually want that to be like a purple. See that? And the blue really should be a bit more of like a crystal cyan blue, something like that, and I could hit OK. And all these colors will update on the fly because all the colors, even in the gradients, are linked back to these original sort of master global colors. Now, I'm going to undo that because I want to stick with the colors that we had. And we've wrapped up. We've created this shape. We've created a really, really complex shape with global colors, with gradients, with all kinds of holes and junk cut out of it. Two relatively difficult to add drop shadows, all put together nicely, neatly in this one compact little layer here in Adobe Illustrator with a nice shadow beneath it and all the good stuff. And that will just about wrap this one up. Oh, so there you have it. Really cool stuff. Really, just, I don't know, a lot of different features and tools that we covered there that you can learn about and have fun with. If you did follow through and got to this part of the video tutorial, well, number one, subscribe to my channel so you never miss any graphic design or Adobe Illustrator tutorials in the future. That'd be super cool. But if you did follow through with the tutorial and create this, I would love, love, love to see what you made. Upload it to your Instagram if you would and tag me in it. My Instagram handle is @tutvid. I'll go over there. I will end up seeing your artwork because it'll show up in all my tagged images. I'll give you some love. I'll check it out. I would love to see what you get, what you make, what you create from this tutorial. Guys, for everything that we learned here in Adobe Illustrator today, that's it. Get it, got it, good. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. I'll catch you in the next one. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more great tutorials every day. Also, buy my course. It helps us do what we do, and this channel is supported by viewers just like you. You can also just click the thumbnail and watch another video from this channel. See you next time, guys.